Hello and welcome. You're with us here on Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Here are the day's top stories. The Indian industry says Prime Minister Modi's vision of India being a developed nation by 2047 is feasible given the framework already laid down. Business Today TV gets you an exclusive conversation with the CII president on the show. Stock markets end in the green. The Sensex up 138 points, Nifty up 30 points, Bank Nifty continues to cool off. PSU banks, pharma, media, realty, that's really where we see some action. As the world waits for the new iPhone 15, Foxconn has reportedly begun the phone's production in its Sri Pemuttur plant in Tamil Nadu. Supplies to begin soon after launch next month. Hyundai expands its footprint in India, acquires General Motors' Talegaon plant in Maharashtra, will invest 200 billion rupees to expand the plant's capacity to 10 lakh units, says the factory will be used to make electric vehicles. Himachal's tourism industry washed away by heavy rains and landslides. Hotels go vacant despite massive discounts as terrified tourists cancel their bookings post the landslides. Hoteliers seek financial relief from the government. The Indian industry has expressed its firm backing for Prime Minister Modi's announcement that India will be a developed nation when it celebrates the 100th anniversary of its independence in 2047. Business Today TV spoke to Dinesh, president of CII, who is confident that with the groundwork laid in the past few years, the target is very much within reach.
In his 10th Independence Day address to the nation from the ramparts of Red Fort, the Prime Minister made a promise about India's economic might.
आजादी के अमृत काल में 2047 में जब देश आजादी के 100 साल मनाएगा, उस समय दुनिया में भारत का तिरंगा झंडा, विकसित भारत का तिरंगा झंडा होना चाहिए.
The ambitious target comes just days after another promise by the Prime Minister that India will be the third largest economy in the world during his third stint at the Lok Kalyan Marg. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman backed him in an exclusive conversation with Business Today TV, hours after the Red Fort address.
We will reach India as a developed country by 2047. Now, third largest, it is certainly something which PM has mentioned as a guarantee that in his third term, we will achieve it.
Currently, there are about 37 developed nations, which include the US, Canada, Europe, Israel, Japan, South Korea, Australia and New Zealand. While there is no set definition, some of the expected criteria include a Human Development Index of over 0.8, India is currently 0.63. As per capita income of more than $12,000, India's is currently $2,500. There are other parameters like life expectancy, infant mortality and income equality. According to the Indian industry, the framework to achieve this status is already in place.
This is what I would call as the perfect confluence, and I think the Prime Minister alluded to that by saying actually there's a golden period, because this kind of gives a combination of where the necessary reforms and the actions and the platform had been laid by in the last so many years, and as at the same time the ability of India to have faced the consequences or the challenges of COVID and geopolitically, and the right actions have placed us in a very unique position to take advantage of the growth opportunities.
Meanwhile, a report by the State Bank of India says that India's per capita income will rise to nearly 15 lakh rupees or $12,400 by 2047, putting it comfortably in the company of developed countries. And it is not only the country's largest bank which believes this.
All the benchmarks of being a developed country would also be met. And I strongly believe that we will, I would call it the aspirations of the whole of India will be met and will have to be met by 2047. And that's what I think from an industry perspective, CII's perspective, and equally from every individual's perspective is what we will aim for.
As a part of this promise, the Prime Minister said that if his first term was based on the promise of change, his second term was based on performance, then the third term would be based on unprecedented development. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
State Bank of India research team has forecast that the per capita income will be close to 15 lakh rupees in 2047 from the current 2 lakh rupees. Business Today TV's managing editor Siddharth Zarabi spoke to Soumya Kanti Ghosh, Group Chief Economic Advisor of SBI, to understand the analysis behind these estimates.
This kind of growth of middle class income, the number of people in middle class and the per capita income, what kind of challenges will it exert for the state when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to urban India, when it comes to our cities, which many of them are already creaking very, very badly? What would the government and the institutional response be required for such a middle class in India?
Yes, I think, see, at the end of the day, if you have a tax efficient, which is efficient today, which actually is, most of the income sources are now being tracked, or the way in terms of refund, also in terms of processing also. I think what is also important that we build up the necessary infrastructure, because at the end of the day, if such a large population comes to the metropolitan cities, I think it will put a pressure. That's why, and this makes me to answer one more point. I think that's why we'll find that there's also a lot of development which is happening in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities today.
What kind of numbers are you estimating when it comes to the size of the Indian economy in the same time frame? You did mention third largest by 2027, but just some numbers, because Dr. Ghosh, you've seen there are various estimates, and hopefully if you have some numbers which you could share with us.
See, I think we had done a backstop calculation for this estimate. Our sense is that the economy size of the economy could be anywhere between 20 to 25 trillion. But that is based on an exchange rate depreciation of 1.5 to 2% every year. My sense is that this number could actually go higher if the exchange rate, and we are assuming an exchange rate of 150 to 120 by 2047. So at the current rate. So my sense is that if the economy starts to fire the way it is doing, and in that sense there could be always an upward pressure on the currency. That means the currency could actually appreciate, and if the currency appreciates, then there could be that could actually act as an enabler for us to have a size of the economy which could be far larger than some of the projections.
There is also likely to be a rise in inflation, and this is already a concern, as you can see with the recent spurt due to certain issues in vegetables and allied products. What will happen to prices in India in this same time frame, Dr. Ghosh?
No, I think this is a very relevant question. Unfortunately, today, if we look at the inflation numbers, we are in a paradox whereby the core inflation, which is basically an indicator of the monetary policy impact, is actually running below 5%. It is at 4.9%, while food inflation is at more than 11%, and overall headline inflation is at 7.44%. So I have never seen such a significant divergence in these two numbers in the last 10 years from when this number was started to get released. Now, having said that, I think this again talks about the importance of reforms in the agricultural sector. I think the problem today is that the farmers sometimes don't get the remuneration, even though the Enam market, which has been implemented by the government, if you look into the data, we'll find some interesting insights where the prices are actually higher than the MSP. But even if I take that into consideration, I think it is important that the agricultural produce is allowed to be sold in any part of the country as is being, which is not the norm today. Until and unless we allow the price discovery to happen in the agricultural sector, I think this problem will continue to happen. And also I would like to end by saying that you are asking about the share of the agricultural sector. I think that's why there has been a lot of development in the allied activities in the last 20 years and last 10 years. And my hope is that as these allied activities get enlarged, at some point of time, there will be some correlation between the farm to fork, as we call the common trend in the rural sector, and that will be the most beneficial for all of us.
By when will we be officially, as per the classification that is followed, a developed country?
I think, it's difficult to say, but if I go by the definition, I think there is a large possibility that India could hit the tag before that, much before that, what is getting anticipated. But we have to get some of the things right. Very honestly, if you ask me, I think when the pandemic started, all of us were staring at a double-digit contraction, but the resilience was remarkable. They were finally we contracted by 5.8%. This year also, take my word that the growth rate could be higher than 6.5% the RBI is projecting. And my sense is that if we are able to break this, if we are able to maintain this trend in terms of and the changes which we are trying to make it happen, I think we could hit the developed country tag much earlier than what is being currently projected.
DigiLocker will soon be available for MSMEs as well. In a big decision today, the Union Cabinet approved expansion of the digital service, which will enable paperless loans for small firms. Other big decisions included 7 rail multi-tracking projects worth 325 billion rupees, 130 billion rupee Vishwakarma scheme to promote traditional crafts, as well as a 576 billion rupee scheme to supply 10,000 electric buses to 100 cities.
इसी तरह का डिजिलॉकर एमएसएमई, विशेषकर एमएसएमई जो छोटी एंटिटीज, छोटे बिजनेसेस हैं, उनके अपने सभी डॉक्यूमेंट्स को सेफ तरीके से रख सके, प्राइवेसी प्रोटेक्टेड तरीके से रख सके और उससे डिजिटल वेरिफिकेशन और बहुत सारी चीजें जैसे डिजिटल क्रेडिट पे बहुत तेजी से काम चल रहा है. इस साल के अंत तक आपको एक अच्छा डिजिटल क्रेडिट का मॉडल मिलेगा. जैसे डिजिटल पेमेंट का मॉडल है, वैसा ही डिजिटल क्रेडिट का मॉडल मिलेगा. तो उसके लिए डॉक्यूमेंट वेरिफिकेशन एक प्री रिक्विजिट होता है. तो डॉक्यूमेंट वेरिफिकेशन डिजिलॉकर के माध्यम से बहुत अच्छे से होता है. तो उसको डिजिलॉकर को एमएसएमई और दूसरी एंटिटीज के लिए उसका एक नया एक्सटेंशन किया जाएगा, उसको एक्सटेंड किया जाएगा.
10,000 न्यू इलेक्ट्रिकल बसेस, 10,000 नई इलेक्ट्रिकल बसेस की सेवाएं उपलब्ध करवाई जाएंगी. देश भर के 169 शहरों में से 100 शहरों को चैलेंज मेथड के आधार पर चुना जाएगा.
The Apple iPhone 15, which will be revealed and launched next month, is already under production in Tamil Nadu. According to reports, Foxconn has started making the new handsets at its Sri Perumbudur plant and will start supplying them within weeks after they start shipping from its China plants. This lag was earlier several months, in fact. As of March, Apple was producing 7% of its iPhones in India. While approaching similar production levels is still a tall order, Apple is moving towards parity on shipment timings. There are also reports that Apple is manufacturing its AirPods in the country. Let's go across to Danny De Cruz for more on this. Danny, what's the status of the Made in India iPhone 15?
As we know, Apple plans to launch the new iPhone 15 series in the month of September, which is the same as last year for the iPhone 14 series. But what has changed is that the company has already started the production of the iPhone 15 series in India from the Foxconn plant in Tamil Nadu. The company seems to be on track with its production timeline. But what the company expects is to produce somewhere around 85 million units of the iPhones, which is also similar to last year. And the company plans to launch 4 new iPhones this year, which includes the iPhone 15, the iPhone 15 Plus, the iPhone 15 Pro, and the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Now, all of these devices will get significant upgrades, starting with the non-Pro models. The non-Pro models might get rid of that notch, and it might finally be replaced by the pill that we saw last year on the iPhone 14 Pro models. And the 15 Pro models might get an all-new titanium frame, which makes it more sturdy and premium. And also, it might get some significant camera upgrades, which unfortunately might also increase the price. And it's not just iPhones that are getting the Make in India treatment. even Apple AirPods might soon start mass production. According to reports, Apple might start the mass production of AirPods in the Hyderabad facility of Foxconn by late next year.
Thanks for that, Danny. It's been a bad summer for tourism in Himachal, with the industry sinking in the monsoon mayhem. Incessant rains, overflowing rivers and massive destruction in infrastructure have driven hotel occupancy rates to near zero in tourist hotspots like Simla, Manali and Dharamshala. Tourists from all over India and even overseas have had to curtail their plans and lose their hard-earned money.
It's been one nightmare after another for the hill state of Himachal Pradesh. The first spell of rains brought misery in the Beas Valley, flooding Kullu and Manali, destroying the national highway connecting the popular tourist destinations and devastating swaths of prime real estate. Images of buildings tumbling down into the river, of roads swept away by raging currents, of landslides sweeping away houses as entire mountain fronts collapsed under the weight of rain and construction. These replaced the usual touristy images of the tranquil hills and green Himachali meadows. The impact on the region has been catastrophic, with tourists cancelling hotel reservations and holiday trips. Hotel occupancy in major tourist destinations like Shimla, Manali and Dharamshala has dropped below 10%. Advance bookings are being cancelled and mass and even massive discounts by hotels have failed to attract tourists.
जहाँ पे हमारे 20 से 25 कमरे लगते थे, तो इस टाइम हमारे 4-5 कमरे लग रहे हैं. वो भी हमारे लोकल जो हमारे टूरिस्ट आते रहते हैं, लोकल जो है वही आते हैं.
बहुत ज़्यादा नुकसान हुआ है होटल इंडस्ट्री को. यहाँ पिछले महीने 9 तारीख से जब बाढ़ आई थी, उसके बाद कोई भी नहीं आ रहा है. बिल्कुल शांत हो गया है मॉल, रास्ते बंद हैं, हर चीज बंद है.
These images of a landslide in Shimla over the weekend, which claimed more than 50 lives, has just added to the orophobia, or the fear of the mountains tourists are suffering these days. Even the local administration has advised tourists to avoid non-essential travel, adding to the misery of the hotels, the restaurants, the taxi drivers, organizers of adventure tourism, for whom the peak summer season has been a big disappointment. Hoteliers have warned of massive retrenchments and have sought relief in loan and GST payments for 6 months. It's also been a nightmare for tourists who have not only lost their money, but in many cases been stuck, unable to go home. Earlier in July, around 70,000 stranded tourists were rescued by the Himachal Pradesh government from Kullu Manali, Lahaul and Spiti and Kinnaur districts. Business Today TV came across some tourists from Sri Lanka for whom the visit has been a total waste.
This is my first visit. I was so happy to come here, but now disappointed with everything. Again, we'll have to go back. We couldn't go to Manali and the other place.
Actually, we also came, to enjoy Manali, but sadly, due to this bad weather, we are unable to reach our destination. So now we thought of going back to Delhi and then getting ready for our way back home.
This is one of the restaurants in Mandi which bears a deserted look. In fact, the bad weather has hit the tourism industry hard. The hotel occupancy, be it the Kullu, Manali, Dharamshala, Shimla or Mandi, has dropped to as low as 2 to 5%. The tourists are cancelling their holiday trips as roads have been blocked. With camera person Chandiram, this is Manjeet Sehgal for Business Today TV in Mandi.
That's where we leave it on the show tonight. Thanks so much for watching.